This podcast is brought to you in part by a special group of individuals that I like to call my Patreon podcast producers, and all of them are over on Instagram. So please stop what you're doing right now and go show them some love, because they're showing big love to this podcast. Daryl at Your Level Fitness, Amy at Gem of the Gym, that's GEM of the GYM, Caitlin at Caitlin Elise, put 3 Y's in her name, Crystal at Reduced Fat Mama, Emily at M is the Biggest Loser, that is EM is the Biggest Loser, Joey at Joey Losing Weight, Vanessa at Vanessa Ray's Journey, and Amber at amber.l.ables. Follow all of these amazing people. Their contributions to this show are pushing it farther forward than I could have ever imagined, and I'll be forever grateful for their support. And if you want to join this special group, listen at the end of the show for more details. Are you Team Apple? I got to shout out all of you checking out this show right now on an iPhone, iPad, etc. In fact, nearly 70% of you are listening to me on one of these devices. It would mean the world to me if you took a moment to leave a review. This is one of the best things that you can do for this podcast to help get the word out. And while you're at it, leave reviews for some of your other favorite shows. I bet they would really dig it. Oh, yeah! Mike.
Gary.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great. How's your what day are we on here? We are on Tuesday. How's it going?
It's going pretty good, man.
Glad to hear it, man. Glad to hear it. What's new in your world?
Wow. I'd love to say something really awesome right now, but I don't have a ton of really cool things going on, so
No, nothing's going on.
I mean, things are always changing. I'll say that. My job's always changing, and my diet's always changing. So,
what industry are you in for the people that are listening?
I'm a pastor.
Oh, okay, great.
Yeah.
How long you been doing that?
Actually, just for a few years now. So it's relatively new to me still.
Was that always a passion of yours growing up, or did it kind of come later in life where you discovered that that's something you wanted to do?
It was always the passion. Never got to it. Spent way too much time running the other direction. So
I see. Is it like something that's like the family business, or how did that all work out?
No, it's just something that hit me when I was a kid. There's always something that people know that they're supposed to do, right?
Sure.
And that hit me when I was a kid, and I was never able to shake it. So finally, after just, a few years later, I was about 40, and I decided it was time to pursue that.
Right.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So religion has, I guess, always played a big part in your life.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Right on, man. Yeah, I don't really tackle a lot of religion, whether it be on the show or necessarily in life. I definitely have my beliefs and whatnot, but I've always found that, kind of to be like an interesting world, it's something that, I pop my head into once in a while, but it's never been, I guess, like a prominent part. But yeah, I don't know. It's always kind of been interesting to me.
Yeah, I've always felt it to be one of those things where it's best to be left off of big conversations, and
sure,
just like politics. And if I want to talk to someone, get to know them, then definitely have that conversation a little bit deeper. But the big things that can be really, really, really tough to swallow.
Sure.
That's best left for one-on-one conversations, if you ask me.
No, I agree. I think, it's like you said, it can kind of be, I guess, polarizing at times, to people, whether it's politics, religion, things like that. It's like, there are just certain things that, sometimes are, like you said, best left for like the private one-on-ones and things like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Polarizing is a really good word for that. Yeah.
Yeah. So how did we get connected? I always ask that of every time I have somebody on this podcast. I'm always like, how did we even get connected?
That's such a good question because I don't know if I just happened to see you through someone else I was following on Instagram,
Sure.
and then I was like, "Whoa, this guy, looks like a similar story." So I'm always looking at this point in the journey, always looking for some sort of inspiration. And then I also saw that you were a wrestling fan, and I knew right then I had to follow you. So
Oh man, yeah, the wrestling, it's interesting. Kind of how I've had this relationship with it over the years. I guess some years are more hotter than others, but you kind of never leave it. It's always there to a certain degree.
yeah, that's for sure. I kind of feel like we're in a spot right now where there's something missing, and I'm hoping the new promotion coming up will change that. So
Definitely, definitely. Well, tell me about. I know you've lost an incredible amount of weight yourself, and obviously that is the main reason why we are here. Talk about your early days, though. I mean, growing up, was weight, an issue like way early on, or is this something that comes in later in life?
it was way early. I was the big baby that turned into the big toddler
Yeah,
that was the biggest kid in school, and then I never got a handle on it. And the next thing I knew, I was an adult, and it was out of control. So, as early on, it was always the way I was. So I
right.
didn't really understand what it meant to need to go lose weight. I thought, okay, I'll try to eat less. Maybe that'll do it. But it didn't really make sense. I didn't see results when I tried, and quite frankly, it wasn't abnormal for me to be big, so I never pursued it. And then,
Sure.
like I said, once adulthood hit and it was out of control, and it really seemed like it was beyond me. It was a problem I couldn't control anymore.
And early on, I mean, was it kind of an issue of where maybe you were maybe not quite active enough, maybe introverted, stayed to yourself, just ate a lot at home, or was it maybe the opposite? You were active, but it's just the food was just out of control? Because I feel like people are either one or the other, or there's something kind of in the middle.
I think it was when I was young, before I learned how to drive, I was always out riding my bike.
Yeah.
Uh, I was always active. My mom would say, "Be back in 2 hours," and I'd be back in 4 or 5. So I was always active, but I also didn't understand that I couldn't just eat a bag of potato chips for dinner. So
Yeah.
I, I would eat like that, and then of course that translated into just laziness as I got older in life. Like I didn't understand why a 6 pack of Miller Lite and a bag of hot fries wasn't okay for dinner. Like
Yeah.
that was I would rather have done that than actually plan and cook something. So
I'll tell you what, I don't think I've ever shared this on the podcast. This might be a first time. 2007, I think it was. I was separated from my first wife, and I thought that the perfect diet at that time was living off of Hungry Man dinners and Sunny D.
that doesn't sound bad.
Hey, the me of 12 years ago didn't think that was bad at all, man. I was just like, this is perfect dinner. And plus at that time I didn't drive. I didn't start driving until 2010. And so, at this time I'm walking everywhere. I'm taking the bus. I'm mostly walking because the bus is usually late every daggone day. And so, living off of these Hungry Man dinners was no big deal at all. I just grabbed the biggest ones I could find that had the most amount of food. So I'm trying to get the most bang for my buck. And
Right.
I just feast on these things, sometimes 2 a night. What the heck? Why not? Right.
Right. I know exactly where you're coming from. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and it just kind of got crazier from there, because I know in 2009, I got separated at this time. And then a couple of months later, I met my current wife. And that first summer, man, we were just running the roads hard, just traveling, eating up everything in sight. I was like, hey, here's all these new places I either have never been or haven't been to in years. We got to go try this, try a little bit of that. And it's all over the place.
Yeah. I never did the traveling thing, but I definitely understand wanting to try everything. There's an endless amount of things to try. It's
Yeah.
almost like telling a fat kid there's 15 different kinds of cupcakes at a party. That's
I hear you, man. And so
yeah.
when you get older, it's like for you, you start to drive, right? Maybe you're riding that bike a little less, and you're like, hey, I can go wherever I want now, right?
Oh yeah, and then I got a job, and I didn't do the sports thing because I was super heavy,
Yeah.
and then the job ended up, I'd work a lot of hours. I would eat some fast food before I went in, eat some fast food after I got off, and just drink whatever I wanted while I was there. So it just compounded, just became a continual problem.
Was it large portions when you were eating, or was it just a factor of, hey, I'm eating fast food every single day, like every meal? Like, was it one or the other, or was it something in between?
It was something in between. I'd say late at night I wasn't eating as large of amount as I would have earlier in the day, but it certainly wasn't a situation where I was eating too little.
Yeah.
Let's put it that way.
You can never
Yeah,
have too little, Mike.
right. There's no such thing as too few tacos. Right.
Oh, was Taco Bell your place?
That was it. Yeah,
Oh
Taco Bell.
man, that's a favorite on the podcast. I hear so many
Is
people I
it
talk
good?
to. They're talking about the Taco Bell.
Yeah, when you can get a burrito for $1, and then that means you can get 4 burritos for $4. There's a
Oh
problem.
man. Yeah, that is kind of the thing too. I know some people have kind of smashed the myth about healthy food being too expensive, but when you're kind of like in this discovery stage of, maybe you want to lose weight and you're just not sure, how to start, where to start, blah, blah, blah. You look at it and you're like, well, good God, man, I can go to Taco Bell, like you said, get 4 tacos for $1 or whatever, or $1 a taco. And then, oh, you want me to go buy this salad? This salad's like $10 for one salad. Why would I ever get the salad over the tacos?
Right. My wife and I went through a stage when we started this. Like, we thought, wow, it is more expensive to buy this kind of food.
Yeah.
But what we found the difference was when we eliminated how many times we went out to eat a month,
Yep.
we were spending less money because we weren't spending so much money on garbage meals out to eat. So I think we came out ahead in that process.
Yeah, I think the folks that are saying it's too expensive are the ones that aren't giving up their going out to eat meals quite yet.
Right. That'll damage you a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. It's tough because, again, there's so much information out there, especially with Instagram now. Like, everybody's a salesman. Everybody's got some program or something to sell you. And so, whatever fits their narrative, they'll push it. And if they have to, push it one way just to get you to come on in, they'll do it.
Right.
It can be pretty crazy out there.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you're eating all the fast food now. At what was your highest weight? When you got to your highest peak, what was that weight?
My highest that I know of was 522.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's high.
That's I mean, even I'm a tall guy, and that's still really high for being at 6'3". So I can't even use my height as a reason for getting that out of control.
Now how at 522 do you function? Because I've had people on the show that have been about that size or close to, how does your daily function? Like, how are you able to function on a daily basis at that size?
Yeah, it's strange because I guess just the height helped that a lot because
Sure, you carried it different.
Yes, and I also got lucky in that I don't know why I'm using the word lucky because I'm not lucky. But anyways,
Right.
I would get equally heavy everywhere in my body. And I would see other people that would weigh less than me, but they would be a little bit more, what's the word? Like, they would
Rotund.
be bigger around the waist than me.
Yeah.
And I would think, man, it's a good thing I'm not 5 foot tall, or I would just be completely round everywhere. But I kind of grew everywhere, and I guess what that enabled me to do is still walk and work and get in and out of the car. Things were not easy, but I never had those moments where I couldn't function day to day. Now I could, things like taking a 1 mile walk were impossible, but getting up and going to work, I was okay somehow.
Yeah, the one thing I remember the most about, and I nearly tipped the scales at 400, just under, probably in the 390s before I started actually checking it. But I know that, like, the first thing I would notice right off the bat is getting out of bed and that pain shooting from the feet up to the ankles, knees, back, all that stuff. Did you deal with a lot of that?
I did, and I also started having circulation problems. So I would get a lot of swelling in my feet and ankles. It would look like the skin was being pulled tight, like it was about to rip. And then I would have just if I just took a 4 minute walk, I would have swelling up to my knees and
Yeah.
just intense pain through there. So when I started this journey on this keto diet, I was trying to walk and it was super painful.
Right.
So I actually had to, um, my doctor recommended getting compression socks.
Right.
Well, I don't have any money, right? So I'm like,
Sure.
that's not going to happen. So I just kept going,
Yeah.
trying to walk, and it just got worse. So finally, I broke down and got those, and that helped. But it wasn't really until a large chunk of the weight came off that some of that pain went away.
Yeah, it can be very, very tough, just getting started, just, getting your body moving. I know when I got started, my first goal was I just want to walk nonstop for an hour. And I just went on a treadmill. I try to keep the speed, relatively slow, but it's just, it's all about those first, the first getting started. But I mean, before we even get there, cause I think that, as you're, gaining the weight, you're eating out and whatnot, sometimes we're kind of, like, maybe lost is the word, or, maybe we're kind of, blind to what we are, blind to our situation. And I feel like 9 times out of 10, people will come on this podcast and they'll talk about, I had a moment where it just hit. Right. Like I saw this picture or something happened and it flicked the switch on. So as you're gaining weight and you're getting up into the 500-pound mark, do you have a moment, like a defining moment where you're like, enough is enough, got to make a change?
Yeah, I do. And really there was a few things that happened all at once.
Okay.
I've been a um, lifelong obesity and lifelong depression.
Yeah.
So couple those two together, I would say about 8, 10 years ago now. My years are always fuzzy when I try to do the
Right.
math in my head, but maybe not that long. A lot of things started happening. I went through a patch where I lost a lot of jobs in a row. My
Yeah.
marriage was falling apart, but then my wife got sick. Some pretty intense stuff, and I just remember thinking somewhere this has got to stop. And um, I somehow I've got to get control of what's going on in my life.
Right.
And I thought, I don't know how I'm going to do this, but I know that there's something's got to change. And I read a book, and somehow it always comes down to a book. But this book by the minimalist called Essential, and it really stopped and made me think about what's important in my life, what do I value, and there were certain things that even though I was screwing them up, that I really valued.
Right.
My marriage, my family, my health. But the problem was none of my actions day to day were showing anyone. None of my actions were aligning with those values. So nobody who knew me would have known that I cared about my health or I cared about my marriage or any of those things.
Right.
So it was that moment where I just said, you know what? I've been taking these depression meds for 13 some years now. I'm going to start weaning myself off of those. I'm going to figure out how to start losing weight. I'm going to focus on my marriage and focus on my wife getting better. And
Yep.
Those are the things that are important to me. And it was kind of like drawing a line in the sand. Like if I want anything to have anything, then I have to draw a line in the sand today and say, now from today forward,
Right.
my short-term actions have to align with my long-term values.
Yeah.
And that principle kind of came from that book called Essential.
I love it. I love it. How long have you been married?
Since wow, it's because my wife's not here right now. Since '94.
Wow.
So,
Okay. Yeah. That's a long time, man.
yeah, quick minute. So
And she's seen you in the highs, the lows, and all that, and everything in between.
yeah, she's seen me in my worst. So it can only be uphill from here.
Exactly. That's when you got to keep her when they've seen you in the down times and they're with you in the high times and they stick around for all that stuff.
Absolutely, yes.
So it sounds like to me you had a collection of things that were kind of all coming to a head at once, and that was kind of the breaking point.
Right. That's when I knew, and it wasn't just like I could just think, well, okay, today I'll worry about this, tomorrow I'll worry about that. It was, at this moment,
Yeah.
it's do or die.
And how do you process this? Because I know, like the one of the things I hear a lot is, well, I'm going through all these things, like whether it's people that are getting started or maybe they're in the middle of their journey. I've gone through some of this, and people will say, something's happened and I need to take some time away, or, life is getting out of hand. Whereas for you, it's the flip side. Like it's already all coming to a head and you want to get started. So, you have people on this end, they're trying to put the brakes on everything because life is getting crazy. Life's already getting crazy for you and you're trying to hit the gas and go. And so how do you process, how do you prioritize? Because this might help. I feel like this might help some people that are kind of in that other spot where they're like stuck, they're in the middle of something. How do you prioritize and kind of, execute on these goals that you have?
Well, it for me, and I know everybody's different, but for me, it was
Sure.
a matter of I had to decide what was important to me.
Right.
And if I didn't decide to sit down and say, these are the four things that are important to me, and these are the steps I'm going to take to make them work. If I did anything else, then something that I say is important to me isn't.
Right.
Like if it was just my marriage and I said, you know what, I love my wife and I'm committed to my marriage, but then I did the opposite and I didn't spend any time with her. I didn't work on the relationship. Guess what? I don't care.
Right.
If my actions aren't aligning with what I say I believe in or what I value, then it's not there. So for me, pumping the brakes was like giving up.
Yeah.
So I kind of have this feeling like this week I've had a few conversations with people who come to me and said, I can tell you've lost a ton of weight. Can you tell me what you've done, how to do it? And of course the answer is yes. I can tell you, I'd love to.
Sure.
Then have the conversation, and then they all end the same way. It ends with someone saying, "Oh, I can't stop drinking these energy drinks." And I'm like,
Yes.
"Well, why not drink the one with no sugar in it?" And they're
Sure.
like, "No, I don't like those." Like, well, would you be willing to give that up for your health? You sound like you're concerned about your health. Would you be willing to give that up?
Yeah.
And they're like, no, I don't think I can. And it's always something along that lines. And for me, I can't do that. I have, if I'm telling the truth, then I can't do that. I have to move forward with trying to make those things a reality.
And you've just hit the nail on the head of something huge here, because this is the thing, right? You lose a lot of weight and everybody wants to come banging down your door. How did you do it? How did you do it? And you give them the accurate, honest answer, because you don't have anything to sell them. You don't have a bill of goods to sell, a quick fix that doesn't work, or Band-Aids or whatever. Like, you're just giving your honest perspective. And it seems like when they hear that, they're expecting a different answer, right? It's like they thought that you were going to give them this like magic secret answer that nobody knows about. And that all of a sudden it's going to take all their pain away and they can fix everything. And, that the other thing too, like where you talk about the energy drink, like, could you go without, you didn't tell them, hey, you got to give up energy drinks. It's like, maybe you should try the sugar-free one. And I think that's key too, because a lot of times the key to success is when you're starting out by not throwing things completely out the window, but modifying them, or as I like to call, hacking this a little bit and finding little tweaks. And then what you find in time, I think, is that eventually your behavior changes, and then you either give up that thing completely or you've weaned off of it so hard that you're hardly having it anymore.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. When I talk to people and tell them how to get started, especially when they say, I want to start keto tomorrow. Can you tell me what I should eat? And I'm like, well, obviously you're not ready to start keto, but what you can do is stop drinking any sugar or carbs and stop drinking any bread, and then not have any candy or sweets or potato chips or anything like that for a week. And during that week, if you can do that, as you're doing that, learn how to read labels, do your research, and then you'll be ready to start keto. But if you can take that first step and you can handle that, then you can move on from there.
But Mike, that sounds like a lot of work.
It is a lot of work, and it's still a lot of work, and it's going to continue to be a lot of work. And I think that might be what turns people off, because when they think I'm going to tell them that there's a magic pill or a magic answer, I just kind of have the response like, you can still see me, right? I still weigh a lot. So if there was a magic pill, I wouldn't still weigh so much.
I hear you, man. I mean, look, I'm still in my 280s, and coming down from nearly 400. That's a lot when you think about it. But then people that don't know you, don't know your story, they say, "Oh, that looks like a really big guy," but like, there's a lot of hard work that went into this so far.
Yeah, that's people. People don't understand. That losing 100 pounds is hard. It's not something easy. And even though for some people it happens super fast, it still doesn't mean it was easy.
No, and a lot of times it goes super slow for people, or, I know especially in women, they have their certain times of the month, and it'll balloon up a little bit, come down, go up, go down. And, it can be very stressful because everybody's different. And there's the comparison trap, on Instagram. I think we all get guilty of it sometimes. We look at this guy from the next guy, and it's like, well, hey, this guy's lost 190 pounds. And well, I've only lost 70 pounds. And
right.
I hate when they put that only word in there, because I'm like, man, if I hear you say only 70 pounds again, like, really? Come on, man. Be proud of yourself. Pick your head up and say, man, I've done something extraordinary here.
Right. And what people don't always know, like I wrote about this on my blog, is that even though I've lost 140 pounds, 130 of that came in 9 months. And I've been at this 13 months now.
Yeah. That's extraordinary.
Yeah. So even though I'm at 140 pounds lost, like my first 6 months, I lost 75 pounds.
Right.
And then it kept getting smaller. One day I stepped on the scale and after 3 months and saw, I don't like to weigh in very often, but after 3 months I weighed in and I saw I'd lost 7 pounds.
Yeah.
And I was devastated. But now as I look back at the year as a whole, it makes sense to me. That's a realistic expectation now. But
man, that's huge. I'm sorry, I got to stop you right there. That's huge. Sure. Because, when you talk about how it devastated you, that is one of the biggest issues for a lot of people, man, is like, they will see a number that is not what they initially expected. And the word you said there probably could not describe it any better. Devastated. Yeah. And that's huge, because when it messes with your mindset, it starts to make you a lot of times make knee-jerk reactions like, oh, I've got to completely change the entire course because, well, gee, I only lost 7 pounds. Or in some cases, people might see, well, oh, I gained 0.5 pounds. Oh my goodness. And they go crazy. And the fact that you took time and looked at the bigger picture, that's critical right there.
Yeah. And I know devastating. I use that word and it sounds dramatic, but that's how I felt, like I'd just been kicked in the groin.
Sure.
But just to speak on that a little bit more.
Yes.
That day I got up, it was 5 o'clock in the morning. I had an early meeting and I thought, I'm going to weigh in before this meeting. I was super excited. My last 2 weigh-ins, the 6 months and the 9 months,
right,
were fantastic. And I was like, this is going to be fantastic. So I get on the scale. I see that, devastated, go to my meeting. Then I go to the doctor, and just my family doctor. And I thought, I don't want to go. Number one, I don't want to go because his scale always says I'm a pound or 2 different than ours is.
Right.
So I'm like, I know I'm going to lose another pound or 2 here. Not lose. I'm going to, it's going to come off my total, and then I'm going to be more upset. Right. So
yeah.
I go, and the nurse who's weighing me in looks concerned. Like they're not used to me losing weight, and I hadn't been there since I started keto.
Oh, wow.
Which is a terrible thing. So if anybody's listening to this, don't do that. Go to see your doctor when you start. But
true.
So she immediately thought something was wrong. The doctor comes in. He thinks that he's convinced I'm sick. But, we talked, let him know what was going on. He thought it was fantastic. He even approved of the keto diet, which is a miracle. But then what part of what made me realize that day and settle down was that doctor's visit. He checked my legs, checked my blood pressure, listened to my heart, and my circulation issues were gone.
Wow.
He cut my blood pressure medicine in half, which I had already halved it myself without telling him. But and
Love
so
it.
yeah, and then he listened, he checked some other things I wasn't interested in him checking out, but um, by the time I walked out of there, I was like, man, there's nothing. First of all, there's nothing better to me than seeing large chunks of weight come off. But when I
Yeah.
realized that what was happening was the things that were physically wrong with my body were healing, then that devastation just kind of melted away, and I realized this is it. I'm doing the right thing. If I weigh in 3 months from now and I haven't lost a pound, I'm going to be okay with that because I know what's happening with my body now.
Oh yeah, that's when you put that into perspective, that is huge because I could look at where I'm at right now and say, well, I've only lost, I think my total number is around like 120 or something like that. And I could say, well, I've only lost, 120 in all this time. But like when you look at everything else, like back pain, gone, knee pain, gone, unless they go out running, but that's just because I'm putting a lot of pressure on
That's
it.
a different story. Yeah.
Ankles, all that stuff, like, all that pain of where I jump out of bed and I used to wake up in pain, all that stuff is gone. Like 5XL t-shirts, well, now it's a 2X, and in some cases an XL, depending on how it's cut. When
Well,
you
that's fantastic.
thank you. When you factor in all of these things, like that should outweigh a silly little number. And look, I know that the scale is a tool. It is something that you should have in your arsenal when you are, working on yourself, but it is just one tool. It is literally, you've got an entire toolbox, and it is one tool in that toolbox. It is not the damn toolbox itself.
That's right.
and that just dawned on me right there, that particular explanation for it. And I'm like, my brain just exploded right there. But it is not the whole toolbox. So right. When you factor in all of these things together, it should really lift your spirits, even if you've only lost, 2 or 3 pounds or whatever that number is, because the story is quite larger that's going on inside of your body.
Yeah. Not to mention, gosh, when I first started this journey, I couldn't walk for 10 minutes at a time.
Yeah.
Now I can walk for a few miles. Now I can do yoga. Now I can ride a bike. It's so different. Sometimes I stop or I'll see a picture of myself. Like recently my driver's license came in.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, who is this? It's just hard for me to believe, and when I see my day to day and what I'm able to do, it blows my mind. And that's another reason why I tell people when they ask, I say, don't get on that scale every day.
Yeah.
If you can control yourself, don't even do it once a week. Do it every other week or once a month, because you will drive yourself crazy.
So true, man. So true. I don't know if you found this to be true or not with your own self, because I know everybody's different, but I know that like in the first, 6, maybe 8 months, like I could not imagine not working out. Like I found my body, like I was wanting to be more active, out all the time, running around, doing something. Was that the true for you as well?
After about 9 months, when I lost the bulk of it, I started realizing some things were different. Like I enjoyed being in the sun for the first time in my life. And I was like, something's wrong. Like why do I enjoy this? Because I would normally be angry at the sun. Like,
sure,
you're making me sweat so much that
I can't breathe.
Right. Exactly. And I'm just, and now I want to be outside every chance I get. And people are like, what happened to you? Who are you? So I love it. And now I'm always thinking like I'll work out with a kettlebell and do yoga. And then I'll be like, I feel like I can do some more.
Sure.
And so I'm always trying to add things. So yeah, I totally see what you're saying. It's a totally different feeling to always want to feel like you can do more, want to be out doing more.
Mike, I always joke with myself. I would say, tell my old self, the Gary of 6-7 years ago that was going to 7-Eleven and slamming one of their $5 pizzas by himself, watching True TV or some garbage like that. Try telling that guy that in 7 or 8 years from now that you're going to pay not just go out and run, but you're going to pay for the privilege to be in a 5K or a 10K. Like, try to explain that to that person. Could you imagine going back to the Mike of old and saying, hey man, you're going to lose all this weight. You're going to enjoy going out and being active.
No, I can't. There's no way, because I can remember my wife ran the Flying Pig here in Cincinnati, and
oh, you're in Cincinnati.
Yeah,
I'm going to be there next week for the Flying Pig.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
Not that I'll be running it. Let's get that clear. But
fair enough.
My wife, I'd love to, but I'm not there yet. My wife ran it, and this is when I was at my peak of roundness, we'll say, and I was there to watch, to support her, and I walked to the 2-mile marker because I knew she was struggling, and she's fit, right? So I get down there, and by the time we get back, I was passing out. Like I was losing. She was fine.
Right.
I'm passing out just from watching people run, in the heat. And I thought I'll never want to be out in the heat that long again, much less think about running.
Yeah.
Now I see the day when I could go out running. Not there yet, but I can see the day. It's in the horizon.
Well, I can tell you this. I've done 2 5Ks. This year will be my first 10K, and I'm still not a runner. I almost just do it because it's something that I think is hard, and so it's like a challenge. So I'm like, well, what the heck, let's do it. But a matter of fact, we're gonna be there next week. So on Friday, there's a packet pickup down at the convention center, and then the race is on Saturday. A bunch of us from the Instagram are gonna meet up. If you have some time, I'd love to say hello.
Oh, that'd be fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah. We're going to be there. Great. We're flying in Friday, flying out first thing Sunday morning. But this is my first time to Cincinnati. And, after doing 2 5Ks last year, I figured this year it's double or nothing, as the famous AEW pay-per-view is going to be called. I figured it was double or nothing, and let's do a 10K. Why not?
Why not? Yeah. How did you even think let's do the Flying Pig?
Well, I had a gentleman on my podcast by the name of Arash. He's on Instagram at Shred Happens. He posts a lot of amazing food photos, and he is become an avid runner. He is somebody that lost a lot of weight just like we have, and now the guy's doing marathons, and so he lives in Cincinnati. Wow. And then another pal of mine, I don't know if you're connected with him on Instagram or not, Daryl at Your Level Fitness. He is an amazing guy, and he is also based in Cincinnati. So I guess Arash was on my podcast back in late last year, and we were talking about, doing races, because I asked him about, his running aspirations, and he asked me what I was doing about, the 5Ks and all. He's like, well, we got this Flying Pig here. You should come and check it out. And that kind of got my wheels turning. I kind of got challenged, so to speak. And I said, well, yeah, let's come out and do it. Why not?
That's cool. Yeah, it's a big deal here in Cincinnati. I didn't really realize, though, that people were coming in to do it. That's cool.
Yeah, so we've assembled, I don't know exactly how many people it is, and I don't want to start spouting out names because then I'll forget people, and I don't want to hurt anybody, but I want to say it's at least 20, maybe more, like Instagram people, and there's people that are traveling from all over the country to join us. And so that's why I said, if you're free on that Friday evening, we're having a big meetup, and it's a chance to connect with people on the gram, because this community has brought a lot of people together, and it's also really been helpful for me as far as, a lot of people inspire me, and they're, also sending out their positive wishes to me. So it kind of keeps me inspired, and we kind of all inspire each other in a way.
Yeah, I'll say amen to that. I like following you and watching you do some yoga that I can't do yet is pretty inspiring, and seeing the difference in your size from your pictures. And then old Gormy, he
oh man, yeah,
he inspires me every day too. So it's just getting on Instagram sometime just to be motivated is a big deal.
Oh, definitely, definitely. Well, I would certainly encourage you, and I know he'll be smiling when he hears this because you listen to every single podcast. But my man Daryl at Your Level Fitness, got to connect the two of you because he is very inspiring, and his message is always crystal clear, very intelligent, and very powerful. He comes heavy hitting, coming real strong with that fire, and I got to connect the two of you because he's always got some very inspiring, thoughtful, very informative things to say. So I want to definitely get you guys connected up.
That'd be awesome.
Definitely, definitely. But yeah, so Cincinnati, that's next week. Of course, when people hear this, this is going to be several weeks after. So I'm kind of dating myself because I record these things so far in advance. But yeah, it's going to be a really good time. And it's crazy. You lose the weight and you want to get more active. And again, I can't emphasize enough how crazy it is to try to think back to the people that we were and the mindset we were in and where we're at now, where we just want to be active and running around and just getting crazy, just being super active.
It literally blows my mind. And sometimes I can't even look at a picture of my old self and believe that what's happened has happened, much less thinking about the activity level I have now that I didn't have then.
Oh, absolutely. I'm actually going through your account now, and these pictures, man, they're mind blowing right here. I'm looking at the one with your wife, and then the side by side of you present day. I mean, this is incredible, man. 140 pounds.
When I say that, I have trouble believing myself, but it's real.
I know you were like speechless there. It was like at least a 10-second gap. I was like, is this a Skype lag, or is this guy's blown away at his own progress?
Right. Yeah, those pictures, that I was with my wife at my daughter's wedding, and that was another moment along the way. My daughter's got 2 kids, and I have this interesting situation where I'm 45 and I have 2 grandchildren. One's 9 and one's 1.5. And because I adopted my daughter, and our ages were closer than most father-daughter situations.
Right.
So I was at her wedding, and I was sitting there thinking, I'm at an age to where if I got my crap together, I could be at my granddaughter's weddings. And I thought, I'm not going to miss that. I don't want to miss that opportunity.
Nope.
So yeah, just another big moment where I said, shoot, it's time to get myself together.
Absolutely. So, you're putting in the work and you're working hard. How did you land on the keto diet? I know there are people that are listening. I feel like it's a love-hate thing. People either love it, they really love it, they're all about it, or they hate it with a passion. And I haven't quite figured out why. I don't particularly practice it, but tell me your experience, how you found out about it and how you implemented it into what you're doing.
Yeah, it's another thing I always think about. I just wrote about it too, and I was at a conference, and we had a team with us there, and this guy on the team, I just admired him so much because he could eat plates and plates of food, and he was always buff.
Right.
And I was like, man, I wish I could do that. So, I'm sitting there trying to eat modest and healthy, and you're around a bunch of people and you're the fat guy. You're like, I got to make sure no one knows what I really like. So
yeah, everyone's looking at me.
right. So and then he starts talking about this diet, and he said, if you don't eat any carbs for a month, and I don't even know if he at this point, if he really had his facts straight or if I only listened to part of it, but
sure.
He said, if you don't eat any carbs for a month, then your body will go into ketosis and it'll start eating its own fat. And he had his own language for it. And I was like,
sure,
that's the most bizarre thing I've ever heard in my life. But the thing was, I couldn't stop thinking about it. So in typical Mike Brewer fashion, I'm like, all right, I'm going to go find out everything I can find out about this diet, and I'm going to learn it because I had been through all the other diets.
Yeah.
I'm going to learn it, and then I'm going to do it. So 12 months later, I decided to start the ketogenic diet. It took me a full year to get my crap together to start it, but
right.
But it was just one conversation. The guy says, just don't eat any carbs. Your body will start burning fat on its own. and that got my mind going. And then eventually I started it. The weirdest of circumstances, but that was it.
How did you handle that first period of time without any carbs at all? Did you go into like shock or go crazy or anything or what?
My first week, I seemed to be fine, and I was like, no big deal. I got this. And then week 2, I got the keto brain or whatever people call it now.
Right.
I was foggy. I was slow to react or answer questions, and people would just be like, "Will you please just eat a carb?" And I'm like, "No, I'm not going to. I'm convinced this is going to work, and I'm sticking to it." And they're like, "Okay, whatever." So by week 3, I had the full flu. Like I thought every inch of my body was going to fall off in pain. So the only thing I wasn't doing was puking or having anything come out of me. So
Yeah.
but I was sweating. I didn't want to get out of bed. Everything hurt. I thought for sure that if I, if I made it through that week, I'd be okay. But I wasn't, I wasn't positive that I was going to live through the week. So,
Yeah.
but then I got past that week, and that kind of the flu situation went away. But I didn't get any energy till about week 8, and I think that was a combination of things. Like everybody says eat this much protein, this much carbs, and this much fat.
Yeah.
Well, what I didn't realize at the time was it's different for everybody.
Yeah.
So what worked for me wasn't what was aligning with everything I'd read. So once I got my fat level in line, I was okay. Then I got my energy back, and then from that point on, I was able to start walking and doing other things I needed to do. But it was a rough 3 or 4 weeks to get started, but I had spent so much time thinking about it. I was just like, you know what? Nothing's going to stop me. If I, you know how you think when you have the flu, you're like, oh my gosh, if I die, right?
Yeah.
And I thought, I'm either going to get through this flu or I'm going to die. One of the two things are going to happen.
Yeah.
But not quitting this diet either way. So that was what got me through. I just had this crazy determination to make it. And that's what got me through that first month.
That's incredible. You know, we talked about polarizing things earlier. Why do you think it is that keto is such a polarizing thing for a lot of people?
Well, one, I think no one wants to be told what I can eat or what they can eat. And when you say don't eat any carbs, that's a big one because there's carbs in almost everything. And then you have celebrities that have their own product to sell that are going to come out and tell you the ketogenic diet is unhealthy and it's bad for you.
Right.
And it's because they have science to back up what they're saying. It's because they have a product to sell.
Yeah.
And I can't hate them for that because, if I had something to sell, I might sell it. I might want to, but
yeah. That's why I got into the t-shirt business. There's no deceitfulness there. It's just, hey, I have t-shirts. It's not, hey, I'm going to make you healthy or unhealthy.
Right. Yeah. Good idea.
Drama free.
Correct. Yeah. So I think it's just those two things. People don't want to be told what they can eat. They'd rather cash in their points or live or eat moderately, whatever that means. And then they have people in their ear who are trying to sell them something that are going to tell them that it's not healthy.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the one thing I see so often. It's, when you go through the Instagram and you start going through the hashtags, there's like this war on, pro or anti keto. And I always just find it fascinating as somebody who doesn't really have a dog in the fight. Cause by nature, I'm like, number one, I'm a very picky eater. And so I have to live by this like custom, like whatever the heck I can possibly eat, and try to figure out the right portions and the right, substitutions if I can find something that's like a healthier alternative. But like, I outside looking in, it kind of is, blows me away to see the kind of, one way or the other.
Yeah. And I will have people that will tell me that it's not healthy. And generally my response is, I've lost 140 pounds. If it's not healthy, it's got to be healthier than weighing 522 pounds.
It's hard to argue with that logic right there.
Right. It usually ends the conversation. and that makes me happy. So,
I mean, I guess it would be one thing if you were, you had lost the weight and you're going through every day being sick or something, or every couple of weeks going through some like sick spell that's like, routine and you can kind of see it coming. Yeah, I guess that'd be one thing, but you kind of get sick one time, it sounds like, and then you're good to go as long as you follow it.
Yeah, once you're fat adapted, you should be okay. And I've been on diets before where it would like I was on a modified bodybuilder's diet before, where I was eating 1.5 times my body's weight in protein and it's like 3 ounces of greens five
Right.
times. I'm eating that 5 times a day. The protein was total for the day. Let me clarify that. But
Right.
and I was weak and tired all the time. And I did lose some weight, but I was not healthy. So, there's something to be said for a diet that's sustainable, that gives you energy and you're losing weight on. And when you get my blood work and I don't have any problems show up, I can't help but think that I'm doing something right.
Definitely. I mean, it's hard to argue when I look at that picture, what I don't like to call them before and after. I like to call them before and during, because we're kind of a work in progress. No matter how much awesomeness is there, we're always in progress. But it's hard to argue with that, man. And I think you got to go with whatever works for you. And if that's working, keep on crushing it. And if it stops working, then you just go on to something else.
I agree, man. Thank you.
Definitely. So, we've talked about a lot here. I mean, when you look ahead to your future, obviously we like to set goals for ourselves and we like to kind of look at that crystal ball and see where we're going to land in the next 3, 5, 10 years, whatever it is. Like when you look ahead, and you've already covered so much ground, you've worked incredibly hard, you're seeing great results, but when you look ahead to the future, what kind of goals do you have in mind going forward? What do you kind of see if you can predict your own future?
Yeah, that's a good question. That's a tough answer too, because I weigh now what I weighed in high school, or junior high, I should probably say. That's probably closer to accurate. So I don't really have a good frame of reference of something like, say, I used to do that I want to do it again, but
Sure.
Or a weight where I'm like, man, I miss being this weight. Like I hear a lot of people say.
Or is there something you've never done that you want to do because you were big before?
Yeah, now we're talking. Well, I will say this. I do miss bike riding like I did when I was a kid. When I bike ride now, it's hard.
Yeah.
It's not a terribly fun experience, but I would like to get back to that. And there's some things I've wanted to do, like rock climbing. I want to be able to run without having to be in a full body cast afterwards.
Yeah.
That'd be nice.
Fair play.
Yeah. So there's that. And I would love to just say, you know what? I weigh 225 pounds. I've never been able to say I weigh a healthy weight before. So
right.
That's a really big deal to look forward and say, I weigh what I should weigh. I can ride a bike. I can rock climb. I can run, that kind of thing. That's kind of where my head is right now.
Right. And I'm terrible with math. I didn't even ask you, what do you actually weigh right now?
I hate this question because every week I weigh a little bit different.
Sure. Well, just give me a base, whatever,
Right about 385.
Okay. Right on.
So I'm still a big dude and with a long way to go. So when I sound like, well, I have been through a lot. When I sound like I know a lot, I still feel like I'm the should be on the keto for beginners page, because I have so far to go.
Sure.
But yeah, I weigh a ton, but I know I can walk around saying, I weigh 140 pounds less than I used to.
Yeah. If those photos that you have don't motivate you, I don't know what will.
Sometimes I post the same one that I've posted in the past, and I think, I probably should get some new photos together, but I just I look at them and I'll feel like, wow, this is a really big deal to me. So if it's, if seeing the same photo twice gets annoying, then that's okay.
Nah, I always say take all the photos, even if you don't share them, even if you're not comfortable sharing them, take all of them, because then you have them and they're just for you and you can kind of look at them and get inspired for sure.
Yeah, and I'd love to take some photos put on there eventually where I have clothes that aren't baggy, but I had this thing in my head, like if I get clothes that aren't baggy, they're going to become baggy. So I might as well hold on to these a little bit longer.
Fair
And
enough.
that's just been my motto that I've been working with. So
Nothing
no,
wrong
I
with
don't like
that,
buying
man.
clothes. Yeah, don't like buying clothes.
I don't like buying them either. Now I just make them and I just wear those. I stopped wearing other people's stuff.
You just buy everything from your own website.
Exactly.
I love it.
It's like, well, if
Maybe
I
that's
order
what I
this
should
size
do.
down, it will inspire me. I'll order this size down and, all that stuff and just go with it.
I love it.
So before we go, we've had a great conversation. It's been a pleasure to meet you and chat with you on here. I know you mentioned earlier you're writing a blog and all that stuff. So kind of, I guess, tell people where you want them to go as far as your Instagram and also your blog, and maybe tell me a little bit about your blog.
Yeah, I'm for Instagram, I'm at keto.undone. And there I'm just trying to share my story, things that come to my mind. Trying to be a motivation as well as doing it to motivate myself, because I have such a long road to go still.
You never know who's watching. That's what I've learned.
Well, I guess that's a good point. Yeah. But my blog is it's called losingisthebestpart.com, and it's only about a month old, and
Okay.
I'm just trying to share my journey and the things I've learned going through it. So you'll see a couple repeat pictures on there. You'll see the story of when I got started, what that first month was like, how I learned about the diet, little things I've learned along the way, like little rules I've set up in my mind
Sure.
to avoid things or to help me. So it's not a site where I've got something that's going to teach you how to lose weight. It's just going to be my story, what's worked for me, what hasn't, and hopefully, as I write that, I document my story, that the same with my Instagram, that it's a motivation to someone else as well as to me.
Definitely. So Keto Undone is your Instagram.
Yes.
How did you arrive on that one? Keto. Obviously I know the keto part. Undone. What is that all about?
The Undone. It was, I had my Instagram, not my Instagram, my Twitter, which I don't use much anymore. Is Brewer Undone, which is just my last name. And that came from that period in my life where everything I thought I was and my life was just completely came undone. And then when I had that moment where I knew things had to change, it was kind of like, I just kind of thought, wow, everything in my life's come undone.
Yeah.
And it just kind of stuck in my head. And then the same thing, like one day I realized, man, keto has done the same thing for me. It's changed me. So I just went with that because when I look back 10 years ago, everything that has been undone. So that's how that came to be.
Love it, man. Well, Mike, it's been a pleasure chatting with you, talking with you here today, and man, keep up the great work. You've done a tremendous job, and yeah, you've got a way to go in your mind, but man, you sound like you're in the right headspace, and you're doing a great job. So keep on crushing it, brother.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I appreciate you having me on, and back at you. You are a big inspiration, and I'm always looking forward to seeing what you got on there. On Instagram or whatever else you've got going online. So I appreciate you, and good luck to you too, man. This is a long journey.
You got that right. If anybody's in here for the short game, take a walk, because it's going to be a while.
That's right.
Thanks again, Mike. I really appreciate it.
You got it. Thank you, man.
Remember at the beginning of the show, I mentioned a little thing called Patreon? Well, I'd love to have you join me. But Gary, what is Patreon? It's a website that is helping small creators like me raise funds to further expand their creative visions. For as low as $1 a month, you can help me further my dream of reaching as many people as possible and eventually taking the show on the road to meet all these fine people face to face and add a video element to this podcast. If you were to donate $4 a month, you'd be hearing this show a few days earlier with no commercials and getting access to my close friends group on on Instagram. Donate $10 a month and you get all that plus your name right at the beginning of the show alongside other producers. But act fast. That tier is limited to 10 people. I've got a whole lot more to offer, and you can get all the details over at patreon.com/Gary Cantrell. If you made it this far, I really appreciate you. Thanks so much for checking out the show, and I'll talk to you again really soon. HardWorkAlwaysWins.com. It's more than just a clothing line. It's my mantra. I speak it, I wear it, I live it, and I'd love to have you join the Hard Work Squad. We're constantly adding new items to the store, including our brand new Future-ish hats, which come in a variety of colors, including camo. I mean, who doesn't like camo? We also just put our famous Splash logo in gold to match our OG logo, and there's so much more here. You just got to check it out. Here's the best part. Use the code PODCAST at checkout to take 10% off of your very first order and join the Hard Work Squad today.